We have Paulina.
Yep.
Okay, great. All right, good evening, everybody. This is the October 12th, 2023 meeting of the Needham Conservation Commission. I'm Dave Harrer, Conservation Commission Chair. Before we get started, I'm going to confirm that the members and staff are present and can hear me. When I call your name, please respond. Reed?
Yep, here.
Allison?
Here.
Paulina? Paulina? Don't
Can't hear me?
Oh, yeah, I hear you now. And Dave, I'm here, so that's four of us, so we have a quorum. And as far as staff, we have Deb
Here.
and Clay.
Here.
Okay. This is an open meeting of the Town of Needham Conservation Commission. It's being conducted consistent with Governor Healy's March 2023 extension of the open meeting law temporary provisions. All supporting materials have been provided to members of the commission and are available on the Conservation Commission website. Public is encouraged to follow along using the posted agenda unless the chair notes otherwise. Here are some ground rules for the meeting. Before we go to the first item on the agenda, these rules are for effective and clear conduct of our business and to ensure accurate meeting minutes. I will introduce each hearing on the agenda and then introduce the applicant and/or their consultant to begin the project presentation. After conclusion of the applicant's presentation, I will call on each commission member to provide their comments and questions. Please hold until your name is called. After comments or questions from commission members, I'll solicit questions from the staff and then from the public. Please remember to mute your phone or computer when you are not speaking. Please remember to speak clearly and in a way that helps generate accurate minutes. For any response, please wait until the chair yields the floor to you, and please state your name before speaking. Finally, each vote taken during this meeting will be conducted by roll call vote. Okay, so going to the agenda, first we have minutes of the meeting of 9/14 and 9/28, 2023. Anybody have any comments? Any of the members have any comments on the minutes?
Sue had emailed us just a couple clerical revisions, just a couple, looks like autocorrect type mistakes for both sets of minutes, nothing substantial to the matter, to the minute substance.
Okay, that's great. Whoever's doing the minutes, I think they're doing a great job. If there's no further comments, can I have a motion to accept the minutes of Needham Conservation Commission for 9/14, 2023 and 9/28, 2023?
Motion to accept.
Seconded.
Okay, let's vote. Reed?
Aye.
Allison?
Aye.
Paulina?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. All right. Clay, do you have any updates, enforcement or violation updates?
I have one violation update from last year, but if it's all right with the commission, I think waiting till we get through the hearing matters, it's not real immediate. So
Okay, that's great. So let's go to the first item on the agenda, which is a request for determination of applicability for a manhole project on Greendale Avenue. And who is going to present this? I think it's somebody from the town.
No, I'll be presenting. My name is Ryan Allgrove from Environmental Partners Group, the consultant for the sewer department on this project.
Okay, welcome.
All right, thank you. So I will share my screen. Let me give you the overview of where the project kind of stems from. There's a sewer interceptor that collects probably a third of the town's sewage that kind of runs parallel with I-95 up from Kendrick Street all the way down to crosses Great Plain Avenue, crosses I-95 there and kind of follows the Charles River for another 1,000 feet, and that connects to the MWRA's sewer system. That's kind of where the town's responsibility ends. So the sewer department's been, in conjunction with environmental partners, we've been inspecting that sewer for the last couple of years, and we've come up with a phased rehab and rehabilitation and replacement project. And right now we're on phase 1, rehabilitating the sewers that don't need to be upgraded in size, but they are all from the early 50s, mostly concrete and clay sewers, so sort of outdated construction materials for sewers. And so that the project overall is to do a trenchless lining of those sewers. So it just involves getting a crew on either side of the sewer at each manhole and sending a pipe that goes inside the existing pipe and cures. And so in that way, we sort of structurally reinforce the sewer without having to dig it up. But as part of that work, you have to bypass sewer flow when the construction's happening or when the lining is happening. So, typically you put a pump on the upstream manhole and kind of pump around where you're working. But this particular project, or this particular request for determination of applicability, is a result of sort of a complication in bypassing around the lining work. And I don't know, I'll share my screen, or Deb, I don't know if you have it up.
No, you're happy. You can share your screen. It's good.
Okay, let me find it here. So this, this is a small portion of the project, but it's the only sort of portion that is within the jurisdiction of Conservation Commission, because everywhere else we're not digging, we're just driving a truck up to the manhole. So I'll try to explain it, but this is the area in between Great Plain Avenue and I-95, and the off ramp is just sort of off to the south of the viewport, that one I'm showing here. So it's kind of a difficult little sandwiched area between 3 busy traffic locations. But that's where the sewer is. So it crosses under Great Plain Avenue, and like I said, it takes a turn to the east and heads to be parallel with the Charles River. So see if I can zoom in. We need to bypass. We're gonna, have a truck at this manhole here, this circle with the S, and we're gonna have to put a hose and pump along Great Plain Avenue up to the next manhole to bypass sewer flow. The problem is that there's this sewer coming in from, I think it's called Charles Court East condominiums, that's coming from underneath the off-ramp, and there's no way for us to intercept that flow and kind of pump around the work area right now. So what we have to do is install a new manhole, just upstream of the existing manhole. And really the only purpose of this manhole that we're installing is to stick a pump in it and pump around the area that we want to work in. That's really the whole reason this manhole is going to exist. And we're calling it a doghouse manhole because what that entails is they basically dig around the pipe. The pipe's fully intact. They build a manhole around the pipe, and then you just cut the top of the pipe off in the manhole, so that you're never really severing the pipe, because and for the reason being that if you're going to install a manhole and sever the pipe, you need to bypass around, and that's sort of the whole problem we're up against. So a doghouse manhole is really the only way to solve the problem we have. So we're in the buffer zone. There's a little shrub wetland that's sandwiched in between the off-ramp Great Plain Avenue and I-95 in the little triangle. So we're requesting an RDA, based on the fact that it's a utility maintenance work within an existing sewer easement. It's a sort of an unmaintained driveway, I would call it. They are able to get back here. It's a difficult spot to get to, so the sewer department doesn't go in and take care of that easement as much as they do other easements. But it is, it is possible for the contractor to get back there. And we're going to install sedimentation controls, sort of all the best practices that would apply to this situation. And it's like I said, it's sort of, I consider it minor utility work. It's probably 1 day's effort to get that manhole in, and then all the other work is trenchless. So I think that about summarizes it. Happy to answer any questions. It's not sort of typical utility replacement work. Hopefully I explained that clearly enough, but we're in sort of a not your typical situation with one of these lining jobs, just because this location's in, like I said, sandwiched between all these major corridors.
Right. All right, well, thanks, Ryan. That was good explanation. Yes, the commissioners, if they have any questions or comments. Reed?
Yeah, so you said that there's an existing roadway or unpaved driveway that gets you access to that spot.
Yeah, there's, it's certainly overgrown, but this sewer's been there for 60 years. So there is a way to access it. You got to get around the guardrail on 95. The access is through 95. Coming off Great Plain Avenue is like walking off a cliff. So the access is from 95 and around a guardrail, and it's, I'm trying to think of scale. It's probably 60 feet or so in from the edge of the highway.
Okay, yeah, I mean, in that case, I think it fits pretty squarely in the exception, so.
All right. Allison, any questions?
No, no questions. Sorry.
All right, Paulina?
I don't have any questions.
Looks pretty straightforward to me. I don't see any reason why we could not issue a negative determination, but if somebody wants to put forth a motion.
You should probably ask if the audience has any questions.
Oh yeah, I always forget about the audience. Wait, is there anybody in the audience that has any questions?
There are no raised hands.
All right, so in that case, could I have a motion to issue negative determination of applicability to the Greendale Avenue at Interstate 95 ramp manhole replacement project?
So moved.
Second.
All right, let's vote then. Reed,
Aye.
Allison,
Aye.
Paulina,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. So thank you and good luck.
Thank you all. Have a good night.
All right,
Thank you. Can I just ask where you want, so should I just give the negative determination to DPW? I guess.
Yeah, you can give it to Tom Ryder or
Okay.
or
We'll
Artie.
do. We'll email it to you as well.
Okay, appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
we have another request for determination of applicability for 59 Pershing Road. And who is here to discuss that?
That would be me, Karen Scannicatroni.
Hi, Karen.
How are you?
Great. So do you have a
plan?
or something?
Sure.
you wanna show us?
Can I share my screen, Clay?
You should have the option down below there.
Oops, that's not share. Let me try that again.
I'm also able to pull up the submitted plans if it's helpful.
If you want to, this is a new computer, so first time using. So the civil and landscape plan?
Yeah, I will pull that up.
So for the record, my name is Karen Skinnicatroni. I'm representing the owners of 59 Persian Road in Needham. So the owners are proposing a 1,674 square foot patio and small storage area. All the work is outside of the 25-foot buffer. All work is on existing lawn. There's no riverfront or endangered species associated with the project. There are no trees that will need to be removed in association with the project. Erosion control will be located along the side of the property outside the 25-foot. You can see it on the, I just noticed it's not on the civil plan, but it's on the landscape plan. So the owners are proposing 27 shrubs and 28 perennials in association with this project. See what else? Okay, we have 698 square feet within the 25 to 50, and within the 50 to 100, there's 976 square feet. And that's about it. I don't know if you have any questions.
Yeah, let's ask the commissioners. Reed, do you have any questions?
No questions. No.
Allison?
No questions. Sorry.
Paulina?
No questions.
All right, I got a couple questions. What is the material of the patio construction? Is it pervious or impervious?
So they're using impervious paver.
Okay. So if that's the case, what's the proposal for runoff drainage?
So we were just going to let that run on over the yard.
Okay. And my final question is,
So the owner put infiltration in for the house, although it wasn't required at the time. So they were just going to use the yard for this, for the infiltration for this
okay.
patio.
And I know
So
the wetland delineation was done about 10 years ago. Is that still valid?
So I went back and redid that.
Oh,
I
you
just did it a month ago. Yeah,
because it's not indicated in the submittal.
I know. I used my old data forms. I didn't realize they were 10 years old when I used them. I can provide new ones if you'd like.
Maybe it doesn't, I'm sure nothing's changed dramatically.
Yeah.
Anyway.
The line didn't change.
All right, Clay or Deb, do you have any comments, question?
yeah, just as staff comments, they're also submitting, if you look under our other business tonight, I figure this should also be heard kind of in this at the same time. They have a request for certificate of compliance for a project that was never closed out. I believe that was back from 2014 or so, or earlier. That was for the construction of the house, and I'm just pulling up that plan just for both context and to show what the original work entailed. I think in context of this project and the COC that you're considering tonight as well, There was originally a single family house. As Kara noted, they did install this storm tech unit. We do have a letter from 2014 from the engineer certifying that it was installed where expected. I was also out there today to take a couple photos. The original project proposed the planting of 3 trees. However, they had 6 trees in. I believe I spotted 3, I believe red maples back here, and then 3 arborvitaes down here along the side. The 3 arborvitaes were also shown on the plan here. In that original proposal with the house, the area that the patio is being proposed was where an existing pool was. This pool was removed as part of that original construction of the house. So again, I think that there's a little bit of extra context. For the COC, staff recommends closing that out. As I said, I think it's prudent to hear it kind of at the same time as we hear this RDA. Aside from that, there's no other staff comments.
Thank you, Clay.
All right, any follow-up comments? We feel that we can issue a negative determination here. If so.
You should do the COC first.
All right, so I read the document. It looks fine to me. I don't know if anybody has any comments. And, raise your hand if you do. On the certificate of completion.
Yeah, so this would be for a full certificate of compliance based on staff review. The plantings all looked healthy. They were definitely in. As mentioned, staff recommends a full COC.
Okay. Anybody in the audience?
There are no raised hands.
All right, so and I have a motion for issuing a CS certificate of compliance for 59 Persian Road.
Motion to issue.
Second.
Okay, let's vote. Reed,
Aye.
Allison,
Aye.
Paulina,
Aye.
and chair votes aye. All right. So the next issue is determination of applicability. Somebody want to make a motion to issue a negative determination of applicability for 59?
Motion
First
to
vote.
issue.
Seconded.
All right, we'll vote. Reed,
Aye.
Allison,
Aye.
Paulina,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. All right.
Great. Thank you very much. Have a good night.
Yep. All right. Next on the agenda is Sabrina Lake nuisance aquatic vegetation management. DEP file number 234912. This is, I guess they want to continue to October 26th.
Correct.
So can I have a motion to continue to October 26th?
Motion to continue.
Second.
All right, let's vote. Reed,
Aye.
Allison,
Aye.
Paulina,
Aye.
and chair votes aye. So that will be continued to October 26th. 49 Green Street, we already voted to continue that to October 26th, I believe. And next item is the Claxon Field, 1380 Central Avenue, DEP file 234-914. And who do we have here to discuss that?
This is Cassie Bethany from Weston and Sampson. I'm standing in for Brandon Kunkel, couldn't be here tonight.
No, thanks.
And we have Lee Koska as well. Lee, do you want to introduce yourself? Can't hear you. Or I can't.
You were at the last meeting, right, Lee? Yeah,
Bear with me. Can everyone hear me?
yep.
Oh, there we go. Good evening, everyone. Lee Koska here with Weston and Sampson, environmental engineer for the project.
And then we also have Ed Olson from the town, and our assistant town engineer as well, Justin Severgno. As I said, I'm Cassie Bethany. I'm a project manager and landscape architect. I'll kick us off. We were here 2 weeks ago, and I'll just briefly go over what we talked about to refresh folks, and then go through the responses to the comments that you had made in the last meeting. Share screen. All right. So we are located at 1380 Central Avenue, across from the recycling and transfer station. This is the site as it currently exists today along Central Ave, small parking lot, and 2 recreational fields set within a forested area with rocky outcroppings. The site was historically used as a burn dump prior to the development of the transfer station across the street. Lee's team did analytical testing of the soil and found contaminated soils associated with the former waste materials, or with the waste materials that were encountered. Notification was provided to Mass DEP in May, and there was a release tracking number assigned to the site. So the work was originally proposed to be athletic field improvements to meet requirements for human health and safety in the environment. It was originally proposed to be a sports lighting project and regrading effort and some light improvements, but with the contamination, the scope changed significantly. We discussed last time the proposal to install 2 different types of barrier systems in different zones within the park, depending on the slope conditions. We have a geotextile barrier on the athletic fields and other turf areas, and a geogrid on the slope and adjacent to the athletic fields. And these are really to prevent park users from disturbing the contamination and adding clean fill on top of that capping system. We'll replace the natural turf fields, and we will be installing appurtenances for the ball field rehabilitation, backstops, concrete slabs, and a perimeter walkway. So we discussed tree mitigation at the last meeting. We know that a certain amount of tree removal is unavoidable due to this capping system that is required. So prior to the last meeting, we had met and walked the site with the town arborist and identified several trees. We'll go through that in more detail in the next several slides. Following our last Conservation Commission hearing on the 28th, additional field work was completed that following week on the 3rd of October. Our final tree counts we have broken down this more detailed table of what's been included in jurisdiction or outside of jurisdiction. So our current counts are existing tree removals within jurisdiction are 39, new tree plantings within jurisdiction are 28, and we know that we're not meeting the 1-to-1 requirement. But in the last meeting, we did discuss the possibility of augmenting those tree plantings with new understory plantings instead, and adding habitat, including snags and such things that we'll discuss. So we are adding 127 new understory plantings within jurisdiction for a total new plantings of 155. And then in addition to the plantings within jurisdiction, we're also adding several plantings outside of the jurisdiction for Concom. So those counts are also included here for your reference. The commission requested a detailed tree inventory of the trees proposed for removal and the trees proposed to remain. Included here is a spreadsheet of our field notes that indicate the DBH sizes for all of the trees and what they were, and any comments if they were snags. We did count those, and of all of these, just to consolidate it, we had 4 black oaks, 3 elm, 3 red maple, 8 black locusts, 3 white oak, 1 white ash, 9 box elder, and 4 tree of heaven that were identified with the town arborist for removal. And those have been documented on the plans as well, DBH and tree type. We also, as was requested, characterized the plantings to remain. The edge of the site on the western and the southern sides are heavily forested, as we know, in this area where we will be doing some removals. We are attempting to remain intact as much of the forested area as possible. So our field work notated what those conditions were, and there were different clumps of tree species in various zones. So starting from the top along Central Avenue, we have large diameter white and black oaks and small to mid-size elms. We also have in the red zone here an overstory that's entirely mid-size and large black oaks and many dead trees. And these 2 yellow and red areas are all slated for removal, so that we can do a geotextile installation here. The zone in the yellow will be by and large protected. Most of the trees in here, this is an overstory of mainly black locust, box elder along the edges with a dense understory, primarily of common greenbrier. The yellow zone here in the southern end in the corner are large white oaks, large to mid-sized red maples, small trees of heaven along the edges. We have a zone here in the middle in red that's invasive, several small trees of heaven and Japanese knotweed. And then on the southernmost edge here on the eastern side, we have large white oaks and small to mid-sized red maple and large and small trees of heaven. So hopefully that gives you a sense of the conditions along the edge. Discussed at some length last meeting were if dead wood from the tree removals could be laid out to provide ground habitat for capping or after capping. And so we quantified what exists today for snags. We've counted 7. So we have included notes within the plans that require the contractor to collect those, stockpile them, and reinstall them. And then we actually did it a bit, we'll do it as a cubic yardage actually, so that anything that becomes a snag between now and then would also be included within that. And then we would field place and be on site with the contractor when that work is taking place so that we can ensure that their placements are optimal. Moving along, there was a question about exploring the diversity of the replacement planting. We had previously had a simplified planting plan of just 3 trees. We've expanded that list significantly to include, I didn't count ahead of time, but 8 different trees and a smattering of shrub plantings here, in addition to the pollinator seed mix that we had previously included. This list was submitted to the conservation agents for review prior to doing the planting plan, just to make sure that there wasn't anything that flagged for them. So we hope that this list is agreeable to the group, and we'd love to hear any comments on that. I believe that the parameters that we worked off of were all native. I believe everything is except pin oak, which is one that was actually mentioned in the last meeting. We have to be shallow rooted. So, or am I Green Mountain? I'm maybe mistaken there. Everything has to be shallow rooted to not impact the cap. And then we want to make sure that we have a mix of plantings that have good seasonal color and provide fruit and other benefits to birds and bees and such things. The planting plan is included here as a cropped version to our zone within jurisdiction, with the dark dashed lines here being our outer limits. The replanting plan, the question was about including additional understory trees and shrubs to have a comprehensive edge habitat area. And we did include that where we could. The area up along Central Avenue, that is primarily where we have trees planted densely. That is all geotextile area, along with this zone here along the edge of the perimeter pathway. Those two, we can have shrub plantings because we have geotextile. In areas where we have geogrid proposed, it's challenging to, it's more challenging because that's more shallow, and Lee can get into the weeds on what that looks like if there are questions. But in areas where we do have geotextile fabric laid for the cap, we can do that tree planting, and that is essentially guided where we can put our plantings. And so we really tried to get as many tree plantings in there within reason. And we did add understory plantings in that zone and along the perimeter path, which I'll get to in a moment. So shrub plantings were included in this zone. This was an area that the commission had suggested was a nice opportunity to kind of cut back on the lawn and allow for folks, as they're walking around the perimeter path, be able to walk through the habitat. We thought that was a great idea. And we looked at kind of what the limits were for the outfield, what our outer limits were, and carved out an area that could become a shrub planting and pollinator seed mix zone. And so all of the shrubs that are included on our pre-planting list you had seen are mixed in throughout this zone. We have some small trees and some shrubs along with that seed mix. So the intention is that it'll be a more wild zone. It'll be no mow, obviously, and be beautiful when it's completed. There was a follow-up question to that about incorporating educational signage where appropriate, and we are happy to do that. We just need to determine where those locations are. We could have 2 or 3. We haven't done that yet, but we can include. We're happy to and would work with the town on the content of those signs and the location of those. There was a question about invasive species contained within the soil itself, so I'll turn it over to Lee to discuss this in more detail.
Thanks, Cassie. So with regards to the superficial contamination in areas with Japanese knotweed, unfortunately, we do have contamination at ground surface in those areas. due to the realities of the soil disposal market currently, and basically just high costs to get rid of this material off-site, that was essentially deemed infeasible. So the plan will be to relocate those materials beneath the areas of GeoGrid, which is it's a robust fabric that will certainly inhibit any future growth of these plant species, and that material will be put at depth to the greatest extent possible. This was also generally run by DEP with no major objections. If we could go to the next slide. Oh, back to you, Cassie.
Yeah. So we talked about invasive species management at the last meeting. We have included a specifications section within our submittal that was provided to you on our approach for invasive species management. We've also included reference notations within our site preparation and demolition plan that are clipped and included here, and would bind the contractor to the management of those invasive species. And then Lee, this is back to you.
Yep, thanks, Cassie. So with regards to DEP, when these revisions were made to the plan set, we sent the plans over to the Bureau of Waste Site Cleanup for comment. The only significant comment we received was that in any areas with new tree plantings, that the geotextile get continued under the root ball as a conservative measure. I'll also note that in those areas, we will have 36 inches of fill surrounding the root balls. Essentially, we're going to put some additional fill there and regrade the underlying materials before we put down the geotextile to give additional soil both above the waste materials and surrounding the new trees. And so just to confirm, we are planning on doing that, and ultimately, the work will be done under a release abatement measure or RAM plan that is submitted to Mass DEP prior to the initiation of construction.
So that concludes the questions that we had, that we responded to, that were provided. We did include the plan set as well in the back of this deck. If there are any specific questions about plan sheets, we're happy to go through that, but we turn it back to the commission for any thoughts or questions.
All right, thank you, Cassie. It was a great presentation. I think you addressed all of our previous questions and comments. Thank you for that. I'll ask the commissioners now if they have any follow-up comments. Reed?
Yeah, again, yeah, I'd like to sort of repeat Dave's. I really appreciate how you listened to us last meeting and really took into account our concerns. Deborah, Clay, have we done the math? I guess how does if you add up all the shrubs and trees, does that sort of satisfy our 2-to-1 tree removal policy? Sort of properly accounting for shrubs, or where does that? Do we know what that adds up to?
I have not completed the math on a very I guess
It's a complicated equation, so that's
it is, and I think what was kind of discussed last time and what we've discussed on site is that there's not really enough room to accommodate as robust as the 2-to-1 or 4-to-1 ratio, primarily because this is an athletic field and the geotextile has to take up quite a bit of space. But kind of what the staff argument was previously, and I think what you as the commission were entertaining was to create a habitat that provided value beyond just the numbers of kind of a calculated 2-to-1 replacement. I think that this did provide edge habitat. When I reviewed this revised material under that kind of blanket, it definitely looked better to me. It looked like it wouldn't be such a stark contrast from forest to field, and that there's quite a bit of habitat value that's gained by this updated plan. They also did in my opinion, a good job diversifying the plantings. I think there's more diversity to both the trees as well as the understory that they're going to be establishing. So it's up to you whether you want to accept. I believe that even these new numbers are probably still below that 2-to-1, 4-to-1, but mostly because of the site constraints as well as the constraints to the geotextile fabrics themselves and their limited ability to be digging down or disturbing that filter once it's placed.
Got it. Yeah, I guess my only question on that was, I guess in this sort of shrub plantings that are in the outfield, was the reason for not sort of extending that sort of closer to Central Ave?
The adding more shrub plantings along Central Ave, is that the question?
No, sorry. There's that outfield area where the shrubs are going to be planted, and then it sort of abruptly ends along
Right.
that path.
Yeah, it's directly relational to the outfield limits, like the outer edge of what the
Yeah, that's what I
outfield needs to
thought. Okay.
land at. And
All
we
right.
don't, there's no outfield fence proper, so,
Yeah.
you know, it's an invisible line, but we really can't have trees along that edge to preclude it, but we do feel like it's appropriate to have low plantings along that edge, and we carved out, you know, a 8-foot swath zone as much as we could along that edge.
Got it. Okay, thank you. Yeah. And then I guess and maybe Alice can speak to this, but I just want to sort of, I guess, get Clay, your input on the Norway spruce, since I think that's not native, is it?
It's not technically native, and certainly I don't want to overstep. Allison probably has greater knowledge. My understanding, though, is that Norway spruce in some areas of North America has been naturalized, and that in the Zone 6 hardiness region where we're at, it does fairly well without repropagating. So there's not much concern for it, I guess, outcompeting other things. My understanding is that it was one of the selected species because it's evergreen. That the list, they were looking for evergreen. They originally proposed eastern hemlock, and staff comments came back that the eastern hemlock is already on our list as something that's susceptible to the woolly adelgid and would likely not last long. So I believe that this was chosen as an evergreen with shallow enough roots that kind of satisfies a lot of those site constraints. My understanding is that it is not technically native, but it is naturalized in some areas and is not deemed to be invasive, at least not in this hardiness zone.
So,
Okay. Yeah, go ahead, Alice. You wanna-
okay, it's not native and it's not naturalized here. Maybe in the West. I mean, I would prefer a white pine, but that's my personal opinion because it is native and it is evergreen. I know it loses its lower branches. Norway spruces get gigantic, like 120 feet. I mean, they're really big. I love them. I planted them in many places, but I don't know, just my personal preference is I'd rather have a white pine than a Norway, but that's me. And I think you've done a great job with trying to follow some of our suggestions. I only had one question besides that on the pin oak is a river bottom tree, so it doesn't have a taproot, so it should be fine. The snags that you're going to lay down, you're not chipping them, right? No. Okay. Are any of the snags American elms? I know it's hard to tell because you really shouldn't let American elms stay there if they happen to be American elms.
Okay, well, I don't know the answer to that. The documentation is just snag.
Yeah.
But
I
that's
don't
something
think
we
they
can
are. I bet
investigate.
they're not. I bet they're probably, they're probably not. But it's just not a great idea to chip or keep American elms if they happen to be. I don't think they are. I don't think you found any. The other thing is that, black locust, I mean, I don't know, when they're alive, they do put like a poison in the ground that keeps other plants from, so if they're black locusts, I don't think that's such a great idea either. But that's just, I mean, it's probably okay, but it's just kind of a detail you might want to think
Mhm.
about. If they happen to be a black locust or an American elm, that's all.
Okay.
Wanna-
It may
might
be
wanna-
worth in the field work when that's happening to
Okay.
be identifying what those are and make a call at that time.
Okay, that's my only questions.
All right, Helena, do you have any comments, questions?
I don't have any comments or questions.
Good. Yeah, I really don't have any comments. I think did a great job addressing our comments and squeeze it in, you know, a lot of plantings. I think the site is constrained, especially because of the contamination. So Clay and Deb, you already gave a, you know, pretty comprehensive analysis of the ratios that we talked about. Do you have any other comments?
The only other comment, and I just wanted to circle back to what Allison was touching on. Allison, were you looking to not have the elms dropped? Is that because of the Dutch elm disease?
Yeah,
I believe so. When I was reviewing, and I just pulled it back up, their selective clearing and invasive species guidelines that they submitted with this does call out. It has a bullet point specifically for Dutch elm disease wood shall be disposed of in accordance with provisions, and it goes on. But that was in the
Okay.
plan here, so we'll make sure that's a part of the plan of the record for any contractor doing the work.
okay, great.
Deb, do you have any comments?
No, this was Clay's review, so I'm satisfied.
Okay, how about anybody in the audience? Clay?
There's actually nobody else in the audience.
All right, so some of this work's gonna be in the 25-foot zone, is that correct? So does there need to be a waiver for work in the 25-foot zone?
Yes, there will need to be a waiver for work in the 25. I don't quite yet I didn't have the exhibit A to circulate ahead of this meeting. So actually, so beyond closing of the hearing, I would recommend putting on the next agenda the issuance of the OC as well as the waivers. I suppose you could vote on the waivers tonight, but usually we do those with the OCs. With that also being said, Ed, maybe next week there's a time that we could just go over a couple points that I'd like to work into that order of conditions as discussed at these meetings, just to make sure that they're meeting kind of both the commission's purview as well as not overstepping on some of the mass DEP waste management requirements. So.
Okay, so if there's no further comment, can I have a motion to close the hearing for 1380 Central DEP file number, looking it up here. DEP file number 234-914.
So moved.
Second,
Okay, let's vote. Reed,
Aye.
Allison,
I,
Paulina,
aye.
and the chair votes aye. So thank you. It's a great presentation. It looks like a good project, and I'm sure the softball people are going to be pleased when this gets done. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks so much. Have a good night.
Good night.
Good night. Okay, next on the agenda is 80 Robinwood Avenue, NGWP number 20. And I guess I want to continue it till
Yeah, we discovered that they have an open order that they'll need to close out in conjunction with getting a new order for this. So they're working on getting the documentation together for the COC. So they're going to continue to the meeting at the end of the month.
okay, so can I have a motion to continue 80 Robinwood Avenue, NGWP number 20 to October 26th, 2020.
Motion to continue.
Second.
All right, let's vote here. Reed,
Aye.
Allison,
I,
Alina,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. Okay. Next, we have 94 Elder Road, DEP file 234-913, and this was continued from last week, I believe. And who do we have to discuss this? Diane?
Yes, hi, Diane from Field Resources. I'm here for the owner, which is Pace Builders, Trip, and he will be logging in soon. If I could, should I share our screen?
Yeah, by all means.
Okay, let me just get to that. And I do want to apologize. I'm kind of in two meetings right now. I have a Wellesley meeting that, of course, happens to be at the same time. I may have to just pop off quick to let them know I'm in another meeting as well. So if I could just, okay, so you see that screen with the plan? So
Okay.
we've come, during our site walk, we kind of went over the regulations for the slight changes that the review of how Riverfront is reviewed. So with that, we made some revisions to the calculations on the site. So with that, we had added, there's a paver patio here and there's a paver patio here. In addition to that, there's a little area over here, which we also were able to add because this is a walkout basement with stone wall, or retaining walls on either side with a little bit of patio on the side that we hadn't taken into account. So with that, we had come up with some slightly different disturbance numbers. Let me just go over that here. So that was one of the changes we made. I'm sorry, I'm just trying to move slow so I don't go too fast here. So with that, as you can see, the building within the 100-foot inner riparian, we're reducing that. That pretty much stayed the same, the 79 square feet. The decrease in degraded area within the 100-foot did change to 245, a negative 245 square feet. So we're improving the degraded area within the 100-foot inner riparian. Additionally, again, that made changes to the overall numbers. So with that, additionally, the other changes that we made, we had 2 trees that were going to be removed. And after reviewing the site, the trees that were there, we felt are trees worthy of moving and replanting. So we're going to replant both of the trees that we originally were going to remove due to the fact that they're nice, healthy trees. And as we talked, Allison, you know, we talked about moving the tree up front. You had given us some information in the arborist. The contractor had said that he would get an arborist to help us with relocating that tree. The one up front is just a red maple, which can be moved in the fall, and that's going to be going in the back portion of the lot. Additionally, we're recharging for the impervious on the site based on the Needham regulation. And we had added this whole planting area in the back behind the tree, which is, as Deb did see in the back, there is, you know, there was some fill back there in this area from yard fill over the course of probably the last 20 years. And back here is basically void of any understory vegetation. So we took advantage of that area and we're going to repopulate that area for diversifying the habitat. Primarily, it's all overstory trees. So those are
Yeah,
the
there's kind of a line of U's there right now that are going to be removed.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Well, that's up front. That's yeah, that's part of this as well. So but there is and I do have a picture to show if you but we behind the fenced area. Remember that? I do have a
Yeah, I
picture.
do remember.
Yeah. Yeah. Can you see that? All this area back here is all void. I don't know if that's on my screen or is it just
No, the plan's still up.
this, yeah. Okay. So, it is void of understory. So, and again, we'll be planting this area where the patio and the, in the shed currently sit. So those are the changes that we've made to the plan. I don't know if there's any additional questions.
All right, thank you, Diane. Let's
Should
see.
I stop screen sharing?
No, leave it up.
Okay.
Reed, you have any follow-up questions?
No questions now.
Allison,
No questions.
Alina,
No questions.
and Chair has no questions. How about Deb or Clay?
No, so this, as Diane mentioned, I did meet them on site and, I think that they meet the regulations of the riverfront area at this point. I did circulate a draft Exhibit A. And, so I'm fine with you closing the hearing.
Okay, is there any comments from the public? Clay, anybody out there?
There's nobody in the audience.
Okay, so could I have a motion to close the hearing for 94 Elder Road DEP file number 234-913.
So moved.
Second.
All right, let's vote. Reed,
Aye.
Allison,
Aye.
Lena,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. So thank you.
Thank you so much. And Allison, thank you for coming so we can have our forum this evening. Have a good evening.
Okay, great.
Bye-bye.
Okay, next item on the agenda is 17 Glover Road, DEP file number 234. And looks like the file number is not complete at this point. Is there anybody to discuss this?
Nope. So I spoke with the applicant's representative earlier today. They're still waiting on that DEP file number due to a mix up with the fees. We were hoping to have the DEP file number tonight. They did submit revised plans based on comments from before, just reconfiguring that mitigation area, but they were over the required mitigation area for what they were doing. In either case, I didn't have them come because you can't close tonight without the DEP file number, so they'll come back on the 26th if you'll entertain a motion to continue it to then.
All right, great. Can I have a motion to continue the hearing for 17 Glover Road, DEP file 234 to be determined?
So moved.
Second.
All right, let's vote. Reed,
Aye.
Allison,
Aye.
Elena,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. All right, next item. 190 Edgewater Drive, DEP file 234 to be continued. I guess they want to continue to October 26th.
Yeah, they were missing quite a bit of information in the filing, so, so they're gonna continue and get us the information a week before the next meeting.
Okay, so can I have a motion to continue 190 Edgewater Drive?
So moved.
Yeah,
Second.
All right, let's vote. Reed,
Aye.
Allison,
Aye.
Lena,
Aye.
and chair votes aye. The last item on hearings was the excuse me, I think that covers our hearings here. There was a request for certificate of compliance, so we already handled that, right, for 59 Pershing Road. And the last item on the agenda was 10 Winfield Road yard improvements. Discussion.
Yeah, so I believe that we have the homeowners here in attendance. Just as a brief kind of introduction, I had met with Eric Schneider here in the office to discuss this project came before you as a new house. I want to say 2 years ago, maybe 3 years ago, and they've since gone through the COC process. They had a mitigation area. It abuts Rosemary Brook. The backyard area has now been established. The mitigation plantings are still in, but the homeowner approached us to see if there's something that could be done to level out the back of the yard for the purposes of safe recreation for the kids and whatnot. Originally, I think the discussion was for a series of retaining walls or a small retaining wall in the back just to level it off. However, the site's pretty constrained, and the lawn, even as approved, still went into that 25-foot. So Eric's here tonight just to kind of have that discussion and see if there's anything that the commission may entertain, whether it's allowing for a retaining wall in the backyard within the 25-foot no alteration zone, or if there's other kind of modes to get a more level area where the existing lawn is. If the commission would entertain that before they pursue getting the surveyors and contractors involved. And Eric, if you want to explain more, I can pull up the plan, the as-built plan from the original construction while you introduce yourself.
Sure. First off, thanks for having us. My name is Eric Schneider. We live at 10 Winfield Street. So a big thing we were looking for to move to Needham, we're looking for a nice flat yard for our eventual future family. We now have 2 little kids and would love to have a flat backyard for them to run around. Unfortunately, the way the builder kind of designed the house at the very end, he raised the height of the house, so therefore we have a deck, which we didn't want for kids also. And then the backyard is flat up against the house and has a pretty dramatic drop down to the fence line. So it's very hard to kind of run around out there with the kids without rolling down the hill and for safety purposes. So just talking to Clay, I was seeing if there's a way we could figure out some sort of way to flatten out the backyard that we can enjoy this house and this backyard for the next 10 to 20 years of our kids' lives.
Do you have a specific proposal for doing this, or are you asking the commission?
We've talked to some landscapers about retaining walls. They said, obviously, approach the commission to see what could be approved or whatnot. We do have a fence, and then there's mulch and bushes, and then a dramatic
Where's the
hillside.
fence? Where's the fence? The X?
So yeah, the fence runs pretty much the top of the brook. If the commission members that were on the board at the time this came through recall, they were allowed to mulch this area back here, and the mitigation doesn't encompass the entire 25-foot buffer zone, primarily because there was a lot of invasives, and the existing lawn area pretty much extended to the top of the armored channel to Rosemary Brook. So as a method to kind of keep the invasive species, there was knotweed, bittersweet, and I think garlic mustard that were popping up pretty as pretty the predominant species in this area. They did their mitigation plantings essentially in a bed of mulch to keep the other plantings from coming up, and then erected the fence kind of encompassing the top of the brook, since there wasn't a lot of wild area there to begin with. And originally, when this came to our office, I think it actually was a landscaper that Eric was working with that came down. I think he was directed over from building because he was looking to see what the permitting process for getting that in was. And originally, our comments were that generally the commission does not allow retaining walls and that kind of grading within the 25-foot, even where there's existing lawn. But they did want to come and just see if that is, truly a hard set case, or if there's something else that could be done. One of the other things that we had discussed was potentially trying to scale back some of the grade here and almost match the grade here in the 25-foot with some of the lawn area here, and kind of bringing it back down since the house is raised up. But
Looks like you got a 4-foot drop there.
Yeah, like right where the word says lawn is, from the word lawn to the house is where it's relatively flat, and then from the lawn down to the Rosemary Brook, it's a pretty significant drop down.
Yeah, so you're proposing a 4-foot retaining wall. I mean, it's,
Yeah, it's a leveled out, yeah.
yeah, I don't know, does any commissioners have any thoughts? Reed?
I do.
I mean, this is a matter of first impression for me, right? So, but, so maybe beneficial to hear sort of how, if this is, have we dealt with this in the past, this sort of request?
Yeah, we've had them, lots of requests to flatten out and fill in the wetland buffer zone. In the no disturb. It happens all the time.
And we generally
Request,
Yeah,
don't
Yeah.
approve it.
so yeah,
but I don't, I mean, we really, I mean, that 25 no disturb line is kind of sacrosanct. You know,
yeah,
unless with the retaining wall, you know, house side of that, which doesn't really help you much. You can't build it in the, you know, right up against the brook or between the 25 and Rosemary Brook. You know, or we would have no commission. We're challenged to protect the buffer zone. And so I don't think it can happen, but others can talk about it. That's just my opinion.
Helena, do you have any comments?
I think I would say I understand the need and why you would want to do this, but we do have a 25 no disturb zone, and installing a retaining wall and leveling out the yard, even though it looks like it's you're not doing the same kind of disturbance as constructing a house, but you are still disturbing and adjusting that area. So I think that's what I'm struggling with. Between I see the need, but I also see that, you know, it's a no disturb zone. We should not be allowing work to be done there to protect a brook, but those
Yeah.
are just my comments.
No, I think the commission has been pretty firm on the 25-foot no disturb zone. This looks like a pretty big retaining wall you're talking about with a lot of fill, so I don't think that this would be acceptable to the commission.
It's the backyard does get wider towards the back. So like the 25 feet is, there's no meaning in between or giving me like 10 feet. It's unfortunately it's a kind of a loss of a backyard when you got a couple feet to play with and you just fall down a hill.
Yeah,
Unfortunately.
you know, like I said, or like Paulina said, I think everybody understands the need and the concern, but it's like this. I believe this condition was present when you bought the house, so it's not like it's a big surprise coming up to you.
I see a house 2 blocks on Great Plain has a swimming pool and a retaining wall that's up against the brook. So I thought maybe somehow if they got approvals that there would be.
I don't think they got approval from the Conservation Commission for that. It must have been
Oh.
pre-existing.
Okay.
I mean, the Conservation Commission has allowed like a part of a deck to be in the 25-foot zone under certain circumstances, but that's the most that the commission would typically do.
Okay. I have one more other question. The back right corner, it kind of flattens out a little bit there. Can you do a flatten like kind of where your cursor is, like a flattened patio there? Or is the patio considered within that 25 feet?
Oh yeah, I mean, you could put a patio there, but I don't think we'd want it to go into the 25-foot no disturb zone.
You can't, okay. Because I mean, it flattens out towards that corner spot. But I wasn't sure if a patio consists of quote unquote structure within 25 feet.
Yep.
And
It
I
does.
think that's kind of when we were in the office, that was the hurdle to overcome, is that when the house was built, these were in part the concessions that were made when the house was getting permitted. So unfortunately, the house was set back and built to a size that sacrificed the ability for some of that lawn in light of that 25-foot.
Okay, yeah, unfortunately, we weren't part of that decision or discussion. We kind of just bought it from a builder. And now have to deal with this. So like Clay, like you said, lowering the front of the yard to match it, is that something that could be done?
Yeah, I don't know how the commission feels. One of the alternatives that we had talked about since the retaining wall in our discussion here in the office seemed extremely unlikely based on precedent and how the commission has handled the 25-foot as well as the requirements for the waiver. One of the things we had discussed about was instead of building a retaining wall and bringing in fill, instead cutting and matching the 197 line or so, kind of bringing that back here so that it was essentially lowered, so that instead of filling, we were bringing down the lawn. It would still remain a lawn area, but we'd be removing kind of a fair portion of that soil so that from 197, instead of being up to 200, if the foundation could support that kind of cut, bringing it back, up to the bulkhead here or to this crop out and under the deck so that it was also flat without bringing it up in the 25. And I guess that was one of the things that we had that I didn't have a lot of precedent on how the commission might rule for work in the 25 when it's existing lawn, when you're instead of bringing in fill, where you're cutting it back. And in some ways, I don't believe this is flood storage. I don't believe this is flood zone, but it might also provide some of that overtopping space from the brook. But again, that would be work within the 25-foot.
Yeah, excavation or fill,
Yeah,
it's work in the 25-foot no disturb zone.
I mean, you could lower, if you kept the existing grade along that 25-foot no disturb line, and then you lower between the 25 and the 50 to the house, so that you get a little bit of drainage, so you don't have it flat as a pancake. But I mean, that might be something we would entertain. But you have to keep that existing grade along that dash,
Yeah, that wouldn't change.
not that-
It's from like the word lawn towards the house would have to be lowered down to that level. So the from lawn to Rosemary Brook wouldn't change. It's more of from the word lawn to our house.
25, yeah. But you still want a teeny bit of
Yeah, it would be like a teeny bit, but right now it's just like
one and
yeah,
a half.
or you just
Looks like it's pretty flat now. I mean, it's only like one foot dropping there, right? Unless I'm reading it wrong.
Yeah, but it's not that flat. I don't know what the scale is, but look at how big, it's not that far between the, it's 2 foot, it's a 1 foot drop. So, I mean, I don't know, what is the scale of this? I can't see the bar scale, the bar scale.
This would be 25 from here to here. So this is
Right.
probably about 10 or 12 feet.
So it's 10%. I mean, that's,
Really? Yeah.
that's
Yeah, you
pretty steep. I mean, at this typically lawn, the minimum grade you want in lawn is 2%, which is 2 in 100, which is 1 in 50. And this is 1 in, I guess in 10 or something,
No,
so.
you
So
should
you have plenty of room to lower it and still get a 2% pitch.
yeah. So if I were to do that, do I have to get approval if it's within my past the 25 feet towards my house?
You still have to get approval. You still have to get approval because you're changing, it's still the buffer zone. But I would entertain that. I
Okay.
do.
I
Okay,
agree. That's
I'll
something-
have to talk to obviously some landscapers to see the feasibility and how would
Yeah.
it affect our foundation and stuff like that.
Yeah, if you're willing to pursue that as well, I'm happy to talk about our permit requirements for the work outside of the 25-foot as well.
Okay,
Offline, we can catch up on that as well.
okay, that sounds good.
All
Okay,
right,
well, appreciate everyone's time.
right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, that concludes the agenda. I did want to ask one question that's not on the agenda. I'd like Deb, sent out earlier this week, I think, a draft of a statement that the Conservation Commission it's that we're proposing that Conservation Commission will send to the town meeting members in advance of the town meeting at the end of this month. And there's an agenda item dealing with the Foster property. And we had talked about this briefly before, and everybody seemed to agree that the Conservation Commission should make a statement. Fred Motor drafted up an initial statement. I had made some revisions to it. We had sent it around. We asked for comments from the various commissioners. I don't think at this point we received any comments, but I would like to put this to bed. I think everybody does agree that we should make a statement, but I think we all should agree on the wording of the statement. And so, like I said, I'd like to get this out maybe the week before the town meeting, so we got another week or so. But I would like everybody to look at it and comment on it if they feel they have any comments.
I read it and it looked good to me.
Okay. I don't think we need to vote on it, but I just want to make sure everybody's comfortable with the statement. And then we could just sign it to Conservation Commission, or we could put our names on it too. I don't know how people feel about that, but I'll throw that out as a question.
Either works for me, and I did read through it and it looks good.
Okay, well,
Can I just have one nitpicky comment? Sorry.
yeah.
Can we not call it the most beautiful? Sorry, it says the meadow there is the most beautiful and serene. I don't know. It sounds less serious when you use language like that to me.
Right, so we can tone that down.
I can sort of try to come up with some, but I don't know. I don't know if other people agree.
In my opinion is anybody that has a comment
Yeah.
should, put their comment forth, and if it makes sense, we'll modify it.
Yeah.
So, mark it up and send it in.
Sounds good. And then I guess should town be capitalized, or I don't know. It doesn't matter.
I had a friend of mine who used to be a newspaper editor look at it. And he didn't know.
Okay.
So, I don't know.
Yeah. This is the lawyer talking.
I usually capitalize town when I write projects for narratives and projects, but that's just a personal preference. Either or I think would work.
Yeah. Well, I don't think we're going to be rated on our grammar.
I think grammatically, if town is used as like a proper noun, like a name, it should be capitalized. I think that's.
Okay.
It's been a while since I've taken an English class, but I think it's when it falls into that proper noun category.
Yeah.
No, and I agree it's not going to be judged, but I do think that it should, in order to be taken seriously, I think that it should sort of be, I don't know, be correct, right? So
Well, go for it and send it in.
Yeah, send in your comments, and so this would be like an email to the town meeting members. I'm pretty confident that this will pass at town meeting. I think the big hurdle is going to be with the planning board. I've been trying to think of a strategy that we might be able to meet with the planning board. I think I mentioned that to Reed last week. Today Deb and I got an email from the Needham Land Trust. They seem to be interested in this too. So I was thinking we could pool resources among the various entities that were, interested in this project moving forward, and try to develop a strategy where we can, assuming this passes, meet with the planning board and provide some input to them, so that this would have a good chance of passing to the planning board. because they have to make a zoning change. And the nature of that zoning change will be very important as to how this thing then moves forward. So
I guess, so would we want this letter to be co-signed by the Needham Land Trust then, or is that?
no, they're gonna send their own.
They're okay, got it, yeah.
Yeah, they kind of sent us theirs and we sent them ours.
I wasn't impressed with theirs. It seemed to more describe who they were than, what, how they felt about it.
Yeah.
We were trying to put a little emotional component in it,
Mm-hmm.
because a lot of the town meeting members have been out there, and anybody that's been out there, I think-
Mm-hmm. It kind of speaks for itself if you go out there.
yeah, and that's why I threw that picture in it too. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
so it does, it's not an intellectual thing. It's, there's some feeling to that. Which
Mm-hmm.
I think we all kind of share that. Anyway,
So we just have, so I sent around the draft exhibit A. For, where am I? 94 Elder.
Okay.
So
that's the order of conditions.
yes, so we have that remaining when you're, I don't know if you are done with.
Yeah, I just wanted to. Mention
Okay.
that.
So, Clay, if can you put it up?
Yep.
I'll just point out, the conditions that were a little bit different. So since they're gonna be, so originally they were gonna remove those 2 trees in the front, but now they're going to relocate them. So I thought as part of the monitoring that we should have them monitor those 2 trees as well, because if they don't do well in the transplanting, then we should have them replace them. So number 26, I kind of added that to the monitoring for 2 years. Sorry. Number 27, so that also calls out the monitoring period for the 2 trees in addition to our usual for the mitigation planting area.
Is 2 years sufficient for when you're moving a tree of that size? I just don't know.
That would be on Allison. I mean, generally, I don't know if we've ever required more than 2 years monitoring
We're stuck with it.
for anything really.
Yeah.
So I think at least, having them part of the monitoring, we'll have a good idea, I think, after 2 growing seasons, how it's gonna do. So I just wanted to have something in there so that we have something to fall back on if they happen to.
I mean, just for your all knowledge, that the bigger the tree, the longer sometimes it takes to die.
Mm,
you
right.
know, because there's just more disturbance, so.
So
and if
one's like a
they do
smaller
a good job
dog.
and they dig it up and put it in where they're gonna put it right away. They don't store it, they water it beforehand, they water it after they plant it. They take care of it. It should be okay. A lot of it just depends on the technique of the people doing it and how big, and also the species. But I think the species is okay. It's more than the technique, the time of year and all that.
Mhm.
And if they do it quickly, you want to dig it up and put it in.
Yeah.
You don't want to, when it's sitting up above grade, no matter how beautifully drum laced it is,
Mhm.
at all. You don't want it sitting above grade when you're moving bigger existing trees.
Yeah.
Um,
All
That's
right. But do you think it's worth adding to the monitoring?
I think the 2 years, I think we're stuck with it. Oh,
Yeah.
I mean, do it, keep that in.
Yeah,
But then,
okay.
and replacement, I don't think you can replace with the same size. You might have to say what our typical size is, And
So, and would we require 2-to-1 replacements or 1-to-1?
I don't think so, because they spent all that money trying to move it.
Okay, so
Or
just
we did the
1-to-1.
Same thing, I think just one.
Okay,
Hopefully the same or similar species, something like that, something.
yeah, I think I said that had to be approved by conservation staff.
Okay, that's good, okay.
And then DEP had asked us, I don't know if Clay's been putting these on, in Riverfront area, number 31. No further alteration within the restoration mitigation area is allowed, except as may be required to maintain the area in its restored and mitigated condition. And that is an ongoing condition. So I added that.
So what if they wanted to add another native tree or something? They're not allowed to do that either?
I don't know if that's considered alteration, adding, because adding native plantings is kind of an exempt
Yeah.
activity.
Exactly, is that an exemption from our jurisdiction?
Yeah, it's an exempt activity as long as they're putting in native
Okay.
plantings.
I think
Did
there's
they-
an
did they
argument.
know that?
Sorry, Clay?
I would say there's also an argument that except as required to maintain the area in its restored or mitigated condition, I think adding another native species is exactly maintaining a mitigated area.
Yeah. And I forgot, do you want to have them put permanent markers along that mitigation planting area? I have a condition in here for them to put 3 permanent markers.
Yeah, that's good. That's good.
Okay, because it is a builder, so it will be sold to someone, and as we know, some people don't know that they have this 25-foot kind of no disturb area. So I'll keep that in then. And that's kind of it for special conditions.
Okay, do we vote on this?
So yes, they didn't need any waivers, so you can just vote to issue it.
All right, and that was,
494 Elder Road, 913.
okay, so, I have a motion to, issue an order of conditions for 94 Elder Road, DEP file 234-913.
So moved.
Second,
Okay, let's vote on Reed,
Aye.
Allison,
I,
Paulina,
aye.
Chair, votes aye. All right, that's it. Unless anybody else-
Yeah, so just to circle back to the enforcement topic, just a quick update. I believe it was last year, there was an enforcement of a notice of violation that we issued for work at 1297 Central Avenue. For those of you who are on the commission, you may recall they were redoing their retaining wall, and this meadow area that was meant to be from a previous order of conditions, it was supposed to be maintained as just a meadow, a naturalized meadow. They had kind of dug up all the vegetation and done a little bit of grading work back there. The commission approved a restoration plan that the applicant had gone out and completed. That included several plantings kind of along the wetland boundary here, as well as seeding of the meadow area to reestablish it as a meadow. The intention on the previous order of conditions in perpetuity was to allow for mowing once a year or once every other year, just to prevent woody vegetation from coming up. But again, when they did the retaining wall work last year, their landscaper was a little bit overzealous, I guess. So they do have the plantings are kind of in along this area. It's clear they have not mowed this area. There's no longer large ruts throughout it from the machinery. It's hard to tell if the seeding, the conservation seeding and wet meadow mix actually went down, given that it's mostly grassy sedge that's come in. There is still patches of knotweed in the area, but you can see the plantings coming across the property. Here you can see the work on the retaining walls finished.
I think that grass looks like it might be a fescue or something, you know. That's not a typical conservation mix. I mean, I don't think.
Yeah, I'm curious as to whether that went in and as part of the approved mitigation. Sorry, Zoom's putting the thing in the way. So they had a restoration monitoring. There was going to be monitoring that was going to be submitted kind of on a couple, like every other month for the first year. We have not received any of that. So I think at this point, the homeowner was hoping that we might release that enforcement. I think that we need to at least get one encompassing monitoring report discussing the health of the shrubs that went in, as well as whether the seeding went in, whether there's signs the seeding is taking or not. At the very least, they should have that monitoring report. I also believe these bounds were meant to be in from the previous order. I think that they were removed at one point, either during this violation or previously. Maybe the current homeowner, they are a new homeowner to this as of last year. They might not have even seen the bounds. They might have been removed by a previous homeowner. So I think that reestablishing the 4 bounds that were required, as well as getting that monitoring report, is going to be kind of important for us to tell if that seeding went in and whether it's going to be taking after. If it was planted this year, I know a number of the meadow mixes need that cold stratification to take. They need that period of dormancy. So I guess I just wanted the commission's thoughts if that's a reasonable approach here before we consider releasing the violation, is to get the at least one all-encompassing monitoring report on the current status and resetting of the bounds.
I think that's reasonable, Clay. I was wondering in terms of if they actually put that seed down, they might have seed tags or an invoice or something. I don't know if they have access to the contractor that did it. You know, I mean, otherwise the only way to, I mean, it just doesn't, it looks like it's one kind of grass. And I don't think it's not little blue stem. Doesn't look like that. So it looks like it might be fescue that's just, you know, fallen over. That takes easy, and you know. But it'd be nice to know what they put down. I mean, I think you could say, okay, what was seeded there? Could you give us, you know, and then instead of saying, hey, it looks like it's wrong, you know what I mean? Like try to get the tag or the, you know, invoice of what they actually seeded. And then you can start the monitoring of the grass areas then. And then the rest though, it sounds reasonable, like the markers and all that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's another point. The original plan, as it was approved, the restoration plan called for 2 different seed mixes. So given that the whole area kind of was looking pretty homogeneous, I'll have them include that in the monitoring report to see if they have proof of seeding or the seed invoicing or tags. And it may be that they need to reseed it. I think now is actually a good time of year to seed a meadow before the cold dormancy, but I'm not positive on that.
But the problem is that the, you know, how are you going to get rid of all the grass that's there? And it's probably got a lot of seed that it's set. So, I mean, the best time to seed a native meadow is actually very early in the spring. And you could leave this to hold the soil over winter. And then, you know, then they have to get rid of it, you know, and then you seed really the first week of April. It's really early, you know, or the second week of April. And that's still cold at night. But then you have the rains, the reliable rains. And the seed generally won't freeze, you know, like have hard freeze, too hard to freeze. So that's my experience in terms of native meadow mix. You can do it in the fall, but you have to do it like twice as much seed mix. And in the meantime, it's not going to come up. And so you can have erosion. So I would leave that there all winter. I wouldn't have them take it away. That's my opinion.
So they'd have to scrape out all the grass. Right.
All right,
native
I
seed
will,
takes like 3 weeks to germinate, so it'll be, December or something. And it's not gonna hold the soil. You'd have to do like a cover crop, like winter rye or something. And why would you bother? Just leave what's there.
yeah, I think last year, when they were going to do the seeding, they were planning on using like a jute netting until the seeding took, but I didn't see signs of that. I don't think the seeding got in before the seed bank that was
I think they had
underneath
to
that
see
dirt
like
took
some
in.
kind of fescue or something, yeah.
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 All right, I will, I'll pass along these recommendations for the the monitoring report, proof of seeding, and the bounds to go in for the previous order of conditions, because that was a condition in perpetuity.
Were they ever fined or this is just enforcement order?
At the last year when this came before the commission, I don't believe they were fined. I believe that they were a new homeowner. And it seemed to be the landscaper that did it. There was not a very large removal of things other than like there wasn't major tree cutting or anything like that. It was more that they disturbed, they rutted all through there with the machinery. And they had mowed it all down, which the previous order allowed for seasonal mowing just to prevent woody vegetation from coming up, but it was not as egregious as building something back there. I think that you as a commission decided not to fine in this case, but rather to use that resource to bring it into compliance.
Okay. Anything else? We done?
I think
Yeah.
we're done.
All right, so let's have a motion to adjourn.
So
Motion
moved.
to adjourn. Second.
Okay, and how about Reed,
Aye.
Allison,
Hi.
Nina,
Aye.
and the chair, both sides. All right, thank you, everybody. Have a good evening, what's left of it, and
Mhm.
Hmm.
Thanks,
Thank
everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
See you soon.
Bye.
What?